Welcome to the Autohaus Lancaster Museum. I'm Tom Wanner. I'm the president of Autohaus Lancaster, and I thought I'd take you downstairs and I'd show you our little collection here at the dealership. This is a collection of cars that we've accumulated at Autohaus Lancaster over the years, and we have a wonderful collection of old Beetles, and we have some surprises around the corner, but I sort of thought I'd give you just a quick introduction to what is actually sitting here. This is a 1949 VW Beetle. And 1949 happens to be the first year that Volkswagen was sold in the United States, and that year 1949 Bug sedans were imported, and this actually happens to not be one of those two vehicles. This car came back to the United States with a serviceman. And of particular interest on the 1949 is the fact that we have the split rear window, and some of the earlier Volkswagens also had something on them called semaphores. Semaphores are the early phase blinkers that VW had, and when a person would push the blinker switch, these little lights would stick out the side of the car, and that was actually a blinker. The word semaphore comes from the Navy. The guys that used to be on the boats and would communicate from ship to ship would actually were called semaphores. So this is a 1949 Bug. That's the first year of the sedan. This is a 1977 Bug sedan, and this is the last year that the VW Beetle was sold in the United States as a hardtop. This car was actually shipped to our dealership and was never sold, so this is a 0 miles car. This next car is a 1965 Volkswagen Beetle. This is interesting to me only because this is a car that I personally bought and restored. This also has an interesting feature in that underneath the hood it has a gasoline heater. It's a heater that actually has one spark plug in it. It would take gas out of the fuel tank and would burn it to provide a separate heat source for the interior. There was actually a exhaust outlet over the right front wheel, and boy did these cars get nice and toasty, but that system certainly led to the demise of more than just one VW Beetle. This is another 1965 VW Beetle that's down here. I purchased this from a local gentleman and thought that the car was in wonderful shape with a lot of original chrome, original bumpers, a beautifully redone interior. And from time to time we acquire a classic here at the dealership that we actually sell, and this Beetle is one such example. It's a beautiful 1965 Bug. This is a 1972 VW Bug convertible. This car was sold to me by a Porsche customer that came in one day and said, "Tom, I need to sell you my Bug convertible," and this is how we acquired this. So after the 1972 Bug convertible, we come to a 1979 Bug convertible, and this is actually the last year that the VW convertible was imported into the United States, and the dealership, this was another car that came off of the truck, and we just decided to never sell it, and so we have two original condition, low mileage Volkswagens that were actually shipped to this dealership. This next car is a 1956 Volkswagen Bug with the ragtop sedan, the ragtop convertible. So we put these three together, an older convertible, the last of the convertibles, and this is an early ragtop. These convertible tops would slide back and would accordion up. And this is just a beautiful Beetle that my father acquired many years ago, and I really like the black with the red interior, and just a pretty car. This is a Volkswagen Thing. This is a 1973 VW Thing, and it's interesting how you acquire different cars for the collection, but this particular vehicle was acquired through a family member that had started restoring it, that I finished restoring, and this car was really started life as a rough thing. These were only built in 1973 and 1974. So after our Volkswagen Thing, we have a 1974 Karmann Ghia convertible, and 1974 was the last year for the Karmann Ghia convertibles, and this is an interesting car. I actually acquired this car for the collection quite a few years ago. I was trying to purchase this car when the car suddenly became non-available, and I found out about 6 years later when I was re-offered the car that Dustin Hoffman had purchased the car. This Karmann Ghia has 1,000 original miles on it, has never been restored. It's in extremely original condition. It's an automatic stick shift, and it also has the additional feature of having Dustin Hoffman's signature on the title. This is a 1981 Volkswagen Rabbit diesel pickup truck that we restored here at the dealership. This was my dad's favorite little knock-around truck. He loved these things. This was built in New Stanton, Pennsylvania. It has wheels on it that are not necessarily correct for the year, but is a diesel engined version pickup truck. There are very few of these that remain on the road today just because of condition, and no one really thought of them as being timeless collectibles. But the Rabbit pickup trucks are becoming quite hard to find. And those of you that are in the VW circles will often hear of these being referred to as caddies. Back in this corner, it's kind of an interesting corner only because this happens to be a form car, and it's a Formula V race car. And this particular car was put together by a gentleman that worked for Volkswagen in the 60s. His name was Fred Zellers. He was a friend of my father's. This car was competitively raced. It still features the original body shell on the vehicle. We have updated and refreshed the mechanics so that it's actually safe to drive. But this was a very competitive, very affordable form of racing, and the drivers all used Volkswagen Bug engines that were modified to fit this use.